Beneath the baked surface of the East African desert, in a darkness older than most mammal lineages, something is moving through the earth. No light reaches here. The air is thin, stale, recycled through lungs that have touched it a dozen times before. The tunnels are narrow, compacted by 1 million small bodies over decades, over centuries. And in this suffocating labyrinth, a creature thrives that should not exist by any reasonable mammalian standard. It does not age the way you age. It does not feel pain the way you feel pain. It does not die the way most animals die. Today we're descending into the biology of the naked mole rat, a creature so strange, so utterly removed from the rules that govern nearly every other mammal on Earth, that it has become one of the most studied animals in modern science, because nothing about it is normal. And that abnormality may hold answers to questions we have been asking for centuries. The naked mole rat lives in the Horn of Africa, primarily Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia, in underground colonies that can number over 300 individuals. They are not rats. They are not moles. They belong to a family of African rodents that diverged from other lineages tens of millions of years ago, long before the evolutionary pressures that shaped most mammals took hold. What emerged from that divergence is a body plan that violates almost every expectation. They are nearly hairless. Their skin is loose, wrinkled, translucent in places, draped over a skeletal frame like fabric over wire. Their eyes are vestigial, barely functional. Their teeth protrude forward through sealed lips, allowing them to dig without swallowing soil. They are cold-blooded, or more accurately, they are thermoconformers, the only known mammal that cannot regulate its own body temperature. In a world where warm blood and constant internal heat define what it means to be a mammal, the naked mole rat has abandoned that entirely. But the strangeness does not end with appearance. It begins there. Because beneath that alien exterior lies a physiology so radical, so fundamentally different, that it has rewritten what scientists believed was possible for a mammal to endure. Pain in most animals is a survival mechanism. It is the body's alarm system, a signal that tissue is being damaged and action must be taken. The sensation is mediated by specific nerve receptors that respond to heat, acid, capsaicin, and tissue injury. In the naked mole rat, some of those receptors do not function. They lack the substance P neurotransmitter in their sensory neurons, which means certain types of pain, particularly chemical pain from acid, do not register. You can expose their skin to capsaicin, the compound that makes chili peppers burn, and they show no response. You can place them in an acidic environment, and they continue as if nothing has changed. This is not a dulled sense. It is an absence, and it is not a defect. It is an adaptation. The tunnels they inhabit are sealed systems. Hundreds of animals breathe, metabolize, and exhale carbon dioxide into the same confined space. CO levels rise. When CO dissolves in tissue, it forms carbonic acid. For most mammals, this would trigger pain, distress, and a desperate need to escape. For the naked mole rat, it triggers nothing. They have evolved in an environment so acidic that feeling pain from it would be biologically pointless. Instead, they simply tolerate it. Their neurons have been rewired, their biochemistry has been retuned, pain in this context has been edited out. Then there is oxygen, or rather, the lack of it. In those same tunnels, oxygen can drop to levels that would render a human unconscious within minutes. At 6% oxygen, less than a third of what we breathe, the naked mole rat continues to function. At 3%, it enters a state of suspended animation, slowing its metabolic rate, switching from aerobic respiration to anaerobic glycolysis. It begins metabolizing fructose instead of glucose, a metabolic pathway normally seen in plants, not mammals. It can survive up to 18 minutes without oxygen and emerge unharmed. No brain damage, no cellular death, it simply waits, and when oxygen returns, it resumes. This is not survival. This is biological reinvention. Most mammals live fast and die young, or live slow and die old. The naked mole rat does neither. It lives slow and does not die old, because it barely ages at all. In laboratory conditions, naked mole rats have lived over 30 years, an absurd lifespan for an animal of their size. A mouse, similar in mass, lives 2 to 3 years. A rat, 4. The naked mole rat lives 10 times longer, and it does so without the usual cost. There is no increase in mortality rate as they age. In most species, the probability of death rises exponentially with time. This is called the Gompertz law of mortality, and it applies to nearly every animal studied. But not the naked mole rat. A 10-year-old individual has roughly the same chance of dying as a 2-year-old. Their bodies do not degrade in the expected way. Their arteries do not stiffen. Their bones do not thin. Their reproductive capacity does not decline. They simply continue. Cancer in most mammals is an inevitability. Cells divide, errors accumulate, mutations arise, tumors form. But in decades of study across thousands of naked mole rats, spontaneous cancer has almost never been observed. The mechanisms behind this are still being untangled, but several factors are clear. Their cells produce high levels of high molecular mass hyaluronan, a substance that prevents cells from overcrowding and forming tumors. They have an overexpression of tumor suppressor genes. Their ribosomes are extraordinarily accurate, producing fewer faulty proteins. Their cells undergo a form of early contact inhibition, stopping division before malignancy can begin. It is not that they are immune to cancer, it is that their biology is constructed in such a way that cancer rarely gets the chance to start. And then there is the social structure. Most mammals are solitary or form loose groups. The naked mole rat has evolved eusociality, a level of social organization previously thought to exist only in insects like bees, ants, and termites. In a naked mole rat colony, there is one queen. She is the only female that reproduces. She mates with a small number of males, and the rest of the colony, workers, soldiers, diggers, are sterile. They do not reproduce. They do not compete for mates. They exist to serve the colony. This is not learned behavior. It is biology. Non-reproductive females are hormonally suppressed by the queen, their reproductive systems rendered inactive by pheromones and stress. If the queen dies, one of the other females will undergo a physiological transformation, becoming fertile, aggressive, and reproductively dominant within weeks. Her spine will elongate, her body will change. She will become the new queen. This is not hierarchy. This is caste. And it is unprecedented in mammals. Why? Why would evolution favor this? The answer lies in the environment. The soil in which naked mole rats live is dense, hard, and calorie-poor. Digging tunnels is energetically expensive. A single rat could not dig far enough to find food and survive. But a colony can. By dividing labor, some dig, some forage, some guard, some care for young, the colony maximizes efficiency. The cost of individual reproduction is offloaded onto a single female, and the colony thrives as a superorganism. It is a solution that evolved independently in insects under similar pressures. And it evolved again, against all odds, in a mammal. But the strangeness continues deeper still. Naked mole rats communicate through vocalizations. At least 18 distinct calls have been identified, each with a specific meaning. They recognize individuals by dialect. Colonies from different regions have different vocal patterns, passed down across generations. They do not learn these dialects from their parents, they learn them from their colony. This is culture. This is social learning. This is something that, until recently, was thought to require a far larger brain than the naked mole rat possesses. They also exhibit something rare in the animal kingdom: alloparenting. Non-reproductive individuals care for the queen's young as if they were their own. They huddle with them for warmth. They carry them. They feed them with regurgitated food. This is cooperative breeding, and in mammals it is vanishingly rare. It exists in meerkats, in wild dogs, in some primates, and in naked mole rats, it is total. What does all of this mean? Why does this animal exist in this form? The answer is not simple, because evolution does not optimize for elegance, it optimizes for survival. The naked mole rat is not a pinnacle, it is a solution. It is what happens when a lineage is subjected to extreme selective pressure over millions of years in an environment that permits no waste, no error, no deviation. The result is a creature that has traded the things most mammals need, fur, sight, pain, aging, for the things that work in a sealed, oxygen-poor, socially dense underground world. It is not better, it is not worse, it is adapted, and yet it challenges everything. It forces us to ask, what else is possible? If a mammal can live without aging, without cancer, without oxygen, without pain, what does that say about the limits we assumed were fixed? What does it say about us? Because we share the same cellular machinery, the same DNA structure, the same evolutionary ancestry. The differences are not in kind, but in degree. The naked mole rat has simply tuned its biology differently. And if we can understand how, we may be able to tune ours. This is why labs around the world are studying them, why their genome has been sequenced, why researchers are mapping their neurons, their proteins, their metabolic pathways. Because embedded in their strangeness is information. Instructions, a biological manual for surviving what should not be survivable. And in that manual may be the keys to treating aging, cancer, neurodegeneration, hypoxia, chronic pain. But we are still only beginning to understand. We do not yet know why their cells resist cancer with such efficiency. We do not fully understand how they survive without oxygen for so long without brain damage. We do not know what determines which female becomes queen, or how that transformation is triggered at the molecular level. We do not know if their longevity has a ceiling, or if, given perfect conditions, they might live indefinitely. We do not know if their resistance to pain could be replicated, or weaponized, or translated into human medicine. What we do know is this: beneath the deserts of East Africa, in tunnels carved by teeth and time, lives an animal that should not exist by the rules we wrote. And because it does exist, the rules must change. Not the rules of the naked mole rat, the rules we believed governed all mammals, because nothing about them is normal. And that abnormality is not a flaw. It is a revelation.